Up guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be discussing the results of UFC Mexico, which was last night, and yeah, let's get right into it. For the first fight of the main card, we had Lazy Boy Ronaldo Rodriguez taking on Kevin Barjos, and I had predicted that Lazy Boy was gonna end up edging it out, but I did make it very clear in my pick video that let's not be too surprised if Barjos ends up fucking up Lazy Boy, because Lazy Boy went to war with O'Day Osborne, and Barjos isn't that bad to where he's a clear layup, and Lazy Boy isn't that good to that it would be a clear layup for him. And that is exactly what happened. Lazy Boy had absolutely nothing for Barjos other than his head there to be hit. He was just eating shot after shot, kept getting dropped. He didn't really land anything big himself either, so it just was a terrible performance from Lazy Boy. And don't feel too bad if you picked him. I picked him too, even though my gut was telling me Barjos. But, you know, I fell into the hype. I saw the odds. I was like, you know what? I'm going to trust you guys. I'm going to trust the fans, the betters. I'm going to go with Lazy Boy. And if it makes you feel any better, the fucking legend Julio Cesar Chairez bought into the hype as well. He walked out with Lazy Boy. Yeah, I mean, Lazy Boy isn't going to go too far in this division. He keeps his hands way too low. He eats way too many shots. He leans into too many shots. I just don't see anything of significance happening with him in this division. So best of luck to him, but he left me 0-1 in my picks. So for the next fight on the main card, we had Saiman Oliveira taking on David Martinez, and man, I gotta say, Saiman Oliveira fucking sucks. His spinning back elbow was whack. The way he was like rushing in and getting in neckties, weird scramble, grapple moments. I don't know what the hell that was, but it was a goofy ass fight. Luckily, David did what he needed to do. He finished Oliveira in there. If he didn't get that finish in the first round, his hype would be over. He could have still won. He could have got a nasty knockout in the second round, but that just would not be a good look to get past the first round against a guy like that. But yeah, this was clearly a shameless layup from the UFC for Martinez, and I get it. They got to build up some Mexican stars, so I'm not going to complain too much, especially because this makes me 1-1 in my picks. And yeah. For the next fight on the main card, we had Chihuihuis taking on Vince Morales, and I had predicted Chihuihuis to win that one pretty dominantly via a round 1 submission, and he almost did, but you know what? I don't want to say he got exposed, but he kind of got checked a little bit. Chihuihuis looked sharp on the feet. It's clear he's making major improvements between every fight, but he's still young and makes some silly mistakes. He kept getting caught in that choke / submission attempt from Morales at the end of the second, and I believe at the end of the third. And man, that wasn't tight, but to be fair to Rosas, he has a fucking heart and a fucking chin. So he ate all that, he powered through it, and he got the win, which that is something that you do want to see for a young prospect like that. When the going gets tough, does he crack? Rosas does not crack. I know Rosas was getting a lot of hate because of his performance, but you know what? You got to do what you got to do to win, especially in your hometown. He came out trying to strike. He really was, but he started eating too many shots, so he switched to his bread and butter, the grappling. And ultimately, that is what secured him the victory. And it was a good victory. It was a great victory. He's still young. Yeah, he didn't finish the guy, but he put on a good fight, showed his heart, showed his grit, and showed that he knows how to win. I do agree that he does need to step up in competition, maybe. Nothing too crazy. I was thinking Barcelos, maybe Ricky Simone, or if he's being super daring, wants to be risky, he could take on Peyton Talbot. Thanks to him, I am now 2-1 in my picks so far, so let's move on to the next one. For the next fight, we have Edgar Chairez versus CJ Vergara, and it should have been Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer, but Joe Pyfer is a punk pussy. I'm just kidding, kinda. Personally, I'm not a fan of Pyfer. I never understood why the UFC was pushing him in the first place. From the jump, I knew Jack the Joker Hermanson was going to fraud check that guy, but I digress. An interview had came out where Pyfer was saying he was in the best shape of his life. He was ready to win. He was big, strong. He was going to get Kelvin out of there. But he pulled out last second due to sickness. You know, if we're being real, Mexico isn't known for being the, most hygienic state. I wouldn't eat their lettuce there. I wouldn't drink their tap water there. I think everybody knows that. So I was trying to cut Pyfer some slack, although you would think with the whole team around you, you would avoid these things, but you never know. The major quote-unquote kill shot on this to Pyfer is that he posted a video explaining himself, and he specifically said it was the altitude. He said, oh, if this is the altitude, then I'm never fighting at altitude again. So did he just admit that he ducked Kelvin Gastelum because of the fucking altitude? Anyways, I'm done talking about that. Let's move on to the actual fight. Chairez versus Vergara. Chairez went out there and pieced Vergara the fuck up. He looked very, very crisp on the feet. Very crisp. He had a big moment where he dropped Vergara, kind of walked him down, and he ended up, snatching him up and getting the submission. But that wasn't really the focus of this fight for me. That's not what stuck with me. What stuck with me was his beautiful post-fight interview, where he discussed how his grandpa sold his truck to pay for a surgery so Chairez could even compete, so he could still compete and fight. And then he revealed that his grandpa was no longer with him this year. So obviously that pulls at the heartstrings. Beautiful story. The fact that they put him on the main card because of a pullout and he got to pull that off is very emotional. It was a beautiful moment, and I hope nothing but the best for Edgar Chairez. I didn't officially make a pick on this fight because it wasn't on the main card, so I'm not going to count it, but I was leaning towards Chairez in it. But regardless, like I said, I'm not going to count it. It was a beautiful performance from Chairez. He looked great. Great mic skill there that really pulled out the heartstrings. The crowd popped. And yeah, I hope the best for him. All right, for the next fight, we had Manuel Torres versus Drew Iron Chin Dober. And I had predicted Torres to win because I wasn't fully confident that Drew Dober's chin was still at 100%. And I was exactly right. Drew Dober's chin is officially fucking cracked, which is as crazy. It's crazy to even say that. Torres hit him with some nasty 1-2s, dropped him, and those side of the head shots were disgusting. And I don't know what the hell Beltran was waiting for, but man, he must have a grudge against Dober. Dober must have busted a parlay. It really does suck to see Dober go out like that because, he kind of has a legend around him, a mystique around him, especially with his chin and the certain types of fighters that he always beats. He was just always somewhat of a fan favorite. So to see the chin finally be cracked, see him take a bunch of extra damage and get up not knowing what's going on, that's just not pleasant to see. Overall, I do think he is better than Torres, but all those wars caught up to him and the chin just doesn't hold up anymore. So it was a good win by Torres. Took advantage and good job on him. That leaves me 3-1 in my picks. Now let's move on to the next one. Alright guys, we are now on to the main event of UFC Mexico. We had Brandon Lego Boy Moreno versus Dunder Mifflin's own Erceg. I'm a big fan of both of these guys. It kind of sucks that they had to fight and somebody had to lose, but it was a very good fight in my opinion. A lot of people thought it was super duper dominant for Moreno, but I simply didn't see it like that. Now, don't get me wrong, I did think Moreno won that pretty clearly, but Erceg was landing some good shots, and it seemed like he was frustrating Moreno, especially in the second round. Erceg had a really crispy jab, and I do know a lot of those jabs hit the gloves, but the sound and the visual of Moreno reacting from it just, to me, that made it look real good for Erceg. So when I saw the internet's reaction to Moreno quote-unquote dominating Erceg, I was just a little confused because that is simply not what I saw. Again, I would like to reiterate, I am not saying in any way that Erceg won that fight because he didn't. He clearly lost. It was either, at best for Erceg, it was 3-2 Moreno, but realistically it was 4-1. Another thing for Erceg that I feel bad for is that, man, he's been dealt a bad fucking hand in his last 3 fights. Pantoja, Kaikara France, and Brandon Moreno? What kind of shit is that? It was a solid win from Moreno, but honestly, I do feel like Moreno is declining just a little bit. Just a little bit. I know that was a great performance, but I don't know. I feel like couple years ago, Moreno would have got Erceg out of there in the first or second. I truly do believe that because he was making Erceg miss wildly at the start and he was landing some big shots. I would love to see Moreno fight at the UFC Guadalajara card. I'm not sure who he can fight. I don't know if we want to see a Pantoja quadrilogy because I would bet the fucking house on Pantoja beating Moreno again, but he definitely deserves a spot on that card. As for Steve Erceg, I'm not too sure where he goes from here. Like I said, he is 0-3 in his last 3. But it was against Murderers Row, so I'm sure the UFC will cut him some slack. Speaking of the UFC, fuck them, because they absolutely fumbled / fucked up Steve Erceg's prospectiveness. I don't know why the fuck they would think it was a good idea to rush Erceg. I get the Pantoja fight, they needed somebody fresh to fight Pantoja, but Kaikara France, Brandon Moreno right after. Come on, you gotta build the guy up a little bit. You can't let that Chanel KO get to his fucking head. The thing too is we all know that the men's 125 division is having an issue of fresh contenders, fresh fighters. So when you have a cool, likable, English-speaking fighter like that, like Erceg, you don't throw him to the fucking wolves. You build him up, similar to how they did O'Malley. And Erceg has a style to where they could have done that. So I just really hope that they give Erceg a lot of grace, and I just hope they give him more and more shots because he's a cool guy. I like watching his interviews. Everything he does is pretty interesting, and he's got that look to him, the office look. I don't know. He's just a great prospect still. I don't care if he lost his last 3. It was kind of rushed up, and I'm excited to see him improve. He looked a lot better this fight than he did the last couple, but if he just sat on his shots a little more, I think he could be a real threat. That is going to be it for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And overall, I was 4-1 based on my picks last night. It would have been 5-1 because I am confident that Pyfer would have won that fight against Gastelum. So it wasn't a bad night in the office for me. That being said, make sure to comment down below. What did you think? How accurate were your picks? Did the fights go the way you thought they would? And where would you like to see Moreno and Erceg go from here? Make sure to follow me on Twitter, SockOnD's Live, and tune into the channel. I will be uploading a prediction video and review video of every single UFC event in the year 2025. So I will have my Emmett prediction coming out in probably a couple days, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. So yeah, whatever. Tune in, guys. Thanks for watching. See ya.